Hi, and welcome back to our series on Teams. Today, I specifically want to talk about setting meetings and communicating with people virtually. This is really important in the COVID world, and now that everybody's starting to work from home, but in general, this has value for those of us that work and have barriers based off distance, such as those of us who live in rural communities. And there's a lot of great features built into Teams right away that can be effective and useful for us doing this. So first of all, let's go ahead and take a look over at the calendar. So in the calendar, this is synced to my Outlook calendar. These are my meetings, and it's broken down, and I can see my whole schedule here. If I want to meet with somebody, I can do a few things. So I can click Meet Now. And if I do that, that automatically starts a meeting. So it'll go in similar to Zoom. This is probably going to confuse it because I have a few things going on. And then I can click this button, and I have now copied a link for someone to join. I can now use this link to send it to somebody else and show them, as long as they click it, they can come in and join this meeting. So I can also then rate how it was. Now that I've had a meeting, there's some really neat stuff. I have a spot where we could take notes in that meeting, and it will be saved anytime I go back and click on this meeting. We can also use a whiteboard during that meeting to share information, and it will save that to that meeting, which is right over here now in my chat. Any files that were shared will also be organized here, but be in the other file designations that we talked about in earlier episodes. So if I go back to the calendar, say I wanted to set a meeting. So I would do that one of two ways. I could either click this button for a new meeting, or I could say I want to have a meeting at this time and click that spot. So if I want to do a new meeting, there's some neat things I can do here. So I'll add the name of the meeting and add those that are supposed to be in this meeting. I can also go here are optional invitees. So these people, you need to be there, but for these people, it's kind of up in the air. It's a choice. I can set that time for it. I can set it to repeat. So if I have a weekly recurring staff meeting or something like that, this way it's always populating and sending out those invites. Now say I don't want to invite somebody specific, but I want this to be available for a team. I want all my interns to know that we have a meeting on this day. Then I can go over here and I can add it to a channel. So this will send it now to everybody in that channel. Will get a link to that meeting that they can now go back and add to their calendar, and it will show up in that discussion. Now, there's also the scheduling assistant, which is a pretty useful part of this. So let's say I wanted to set a meeting with Mary. What it will do is it will show me what might work for both of our schedules. So it shows me that Mary's available at that time, or maybe if I pick another time, she might not be. So I know that Mary's unavailable during that time slot, and that's probably not a good time to set a meeting. It will do this across the board with several individuals, so we can set a meeting collectively. Now, this is great for people inside the organization. And what we'll ultimately do is it will create a meeting in here, and when that meeting shows up, there will be a button right here that says join. So all you have to do is click the button and you will hop straight into that meeting. Now, that being said, and I'm going to switch screens here a little bit, so I apologize for that being a little bit touchy. But if I'm doing a meeting with somebody outside the organization, I might not want to set it here because it's going to be a little tricky to connect them to it. So I'm actually going to go over to my Outlook. And so in my Outlook, I see my same calendar. And so say I want to set a meeting with somebody outside the organization. So I'll pick that time slot, and it will open up a spot for me to have a meeting with them. So let's go ahead and show that meeting box. So this is similar to setting any normal meeting like you would through Zoom or something like that. But now we have a few new features that we can do to make that work with Teams. So let's go over to our appointment block. So I'm now setting up a meeting. And right here, I will add somebody that I'm sending to that meeting. So I can add my invitees. And I could do a couple neat things. So if I click this box right here, there's going to be something called a meeting poll. And when I create a meeting poll, I can set times that would work for me to have the meeting. So I can say, it's going to want me to add some people to it. So let's say I'm trying to set a meeting with my friend Jenny. I can pick times and it will show when I'm available. So I could say that I know I'm available these times today, And well, there's no times tomorrow. So let's look at some other dates. And it will ultimately create a poll. And that poll will then be populated into the meeting. So there will now be a spot where they can fill that out. So I'm going to swap my screen one more time to show that. And here now there will be an option, and when they get an email, they can select options, and they can go through and say, this meeting's good for me, this meeting's bad for me, I can't make this meeting. Where this is really useful is it'll actually do a lot of the work for us. Instead of doing a doodle poll, if they use this, it will automatically decide what the best time is for everyone across the board, and then it will automatically send out a meeting to everybody. And so I don't have to go through and manually check it at all. It'll actually set up the meeting for me because I used this poll. So that becomes a really useful feature in setting up that meeting. Now, there's one more thing that I need to use if I wanted to integrate with Teams, and that is to actually make it a quote unquote Teams meeting. So if I go in this meeting setting, all I have to do is click this button. And now in the invite, there will be a link that says join the Microsoft Teams meeting. And all that individual has to do to join our meeting is click this button. And once they do, they will be sent into that meeting in Teams and be able to connect with us. This meeting will be live, but I can also click it straight from my Teams screen itself. So those are the best way to set up the meetings with Teams. Like I said, this takes the place of needing to use Zoom or other paid services because most of us have already paid for this. I hope this information was helpful. Next time we're going to talk about OneNote and being able to share notes as a team. So I hope you stick around and catch that one.